Next in line among America's most famous executives in recent decades is Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. He is honored as revolutionizing the retail business. Today, no company in the world sells to more people than Walmart. No company reaches so many corners of the planet. No company in the United States employs as many people. And no company has been more criticized by consumer advocates, environmental NGOs, community organizers, women's rights groups, and labor unions. Among the complaints, Walmart's poor employee health insurance policies, outsourcing to foreign labor markets, defiance of unions, sexism, management efforts at coercing employees to vote for specific parties during national elections, and strategies to close down local businesses whose owners either join campaigns to keep Walmart out of their communities or are viewed as competitors. Sam Walton was ranked as the wealthiest man in the United States from 1985 to 1988. By the time he died in 1992, he had created a family dynasty that recalls the dynasties established by John D. Rockefeller and the royal families of Europe and Asia. Daughter Alice, sons Jim and S. Robson, and daughter-in-law Christy, widow of son John, individually consistently rank among the world's 20 richest people. Their combined wealth would almost certainly put them at the top of the list. Michael Bloomberg may be the corporatocracy's current poster boy. After receiving an MBA from Harvard, he joined Salomon Brothers as a trader and later became a general partner. When he left the firm, he used his $10 million severance pay to create a financial information company, Bloomberg LP, that expanded to include news services, a magazine, cable network, and radio stations. He was elected mayor of New York City in 2001 and again in 2005. With a net worth estimated at over $15 billion, he is listed among the United States' 10 wealthiest people and has reportedly donated around $800 million to charity and the arts. He declines to receive a salary as mayor and lives in his own home on the Upper East Side instead of Gracie Mansion, the official mayor's residence. He also owns homes in Britain and the tax haven of Bermuda. He has often been mentioned in political circles as a potential presidential candidate. There is, however, a shadow side of Michael Bloomberg. It includes an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, class action lawsuit against his company for harassment of women, accusations by labor that he busts unions, and the fact that he financed his political campaigns with an estimated $150 million of his own money, giving him a huge advantage over his opponents. He is the archetype of the revolving door executive, one of those powerful people like former Treasury Secretaries Robert Rubin and Hank Paulson, who shuttle back and forth between business, government, and banking, and in the process ensure that their interests are always served, regardless of the impacts on the general economy. The list of predatory capitalists is extensive. Among other noteworthy corporatocracy billionaires, John T. Chambers, chairman of the board and CEO of Cisco Systems, Inc., Scott McNeely, chairman of the board of Sun Microsystems, Charles Koch, chairman of the board and CEO of Koch Industries, Inc., a conglomerate with major oil and gas facilities and the largest privately held company by revenue in the United States. Charles' brother and co-owner, David Koch, Michael Dell, the founder and CEO of Dell, Inc., and Ronald Perlman, who bought beleaguered corporations and then sold them for enormous profits. Among his most infamous deals is the purchase of Revlon Corporation with $700 million in junk bonds from Michael Milken's now-defunct Drexel Burnham Lambert. All told, there were 355 billionaires in the United States, 45% of the world's total, in 2008. They were worth more than $1 trillion. One thing about most of them is clear. They do not include among their goals that of being responsible citizens willing to help the workers and consumers who enable them to gain their riches. Although these members of the corporatocracy make a show of publicly supporting philanthropies, At the same time, they quietly expend fortunes on lawyers and lobbyists who fight against pro-labor, pro-consumer, and pro-environment regulations and any laws that would force the tycoons to pay their fair share of taxes. Those with the money and power go to great lengths to cheat the system. According to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, GAO, nearly two-thirds of the companies they own and manage do not pay any income taxes at all, despite their profitability and combined revenues of about $2.5 trillion. The corporatocracy's lobbying efforts have been extremely successful for its members personally and disastrous for the economy as a whole. The percentage of federal taxes paid by corporations dropped from 40% of the total in 1943 to 7% in 2003. At the other end of the U.S. spectrum are the impoverished. The official U.S. Census reports that almost 40 million people in the United States live below the poverty level. Nearly 46 million people in the United States did not have health insurance in 2007, and that figure undoubtedly rose in 2008 and 2009 due to the recession. The contrast between the extremely wealthy and the destitute is something few Americans want to talk about, and yet it is a very real contributor to our current economic demise. In our literature and movies, we poke fun at banana republics, but the sad truth is that we are perhaps the world's first non-banana producing banana republic. When we examine the state of our economy, the shortage of businesses that produce real things that people need, the huge gap between rich and poor, the current national debt, and the exploitation of the many by a very few, we see a profile similar to that in the Third World. Our overall standards may be higher. However, in relative terms, the similarities are shocking, and every year things grow worse. In terms of U.S. wealth distribution, the 10% at the top of the economic ladder own nearly 90% of stocks, bonds, trust funds, and business equity, and over 75% of non-home real estate. According to G. William Domhoff, professor of sociology at the University of California at Santa Cruz, since financial wealth is what counts as far as the control of income-producing assets, we can say that just 10% of the people own the United States of America. The conclusion that a very few people exercise undue influence over the rest of us is not a pretty one. It does not reflect the way most of us are raised to think of ourselves or our system. As the short biographies above demonstrate, that small handful of people controls technology, vital energy resources, the media, the banks, and the government. It is also shocking to realize that these people so mismanaged the system that they drove us all into the terrible economic recession we now face. They themselves would have been better off if they had hired fewer lawyers and instead doled out more money to the poor through both increased employment and tax-supported government programs. The recipients could then have become consumers. However, predatory capitalists apparently were not capable of understanding this most basic economic principle. And we, the people, went along with them. We idolized their jets, yachts, and mansions. We honored their philanthropies and their pious words. We turned our resources over to them and elected them and their advisors to public offices. One has to wonder how a country that fought a revolution against British aristocracy allowed itself to fall so far. In a very real sense, the modern Gilded Age of robber barons started with deregulation of the energy sector, about the time I chose to enter that industry after leaving the EHM ranks.